All right, and welcome back to a breaking news SKTLs community conference call with hedge fund manager Cody Willard, hedge fund analyst Bryce, Mr. Joe Anderson, the show's badass, and the most humble, smartest man I know, Mr. Sinazzi. How's everybody doing today?
Doing very well.
Great.
Very good.
Well, I did say it was a breaking news kind of event because literally, I guess it was like minutes ago, we had the Bitcoin ETF approval. I guess we can, go into discussing this really quick.
Wait.
First reaction.
This one's real. This is real today?
Right, exactly. Supposedly
real.
There were no errant tweets or Gary Gensler finally has a hold on the SEC's X/Twitter account. So this news is real.
I'm stealing your shared screen there so we can.
No problem.
Wow. So this is legit, you're telling me?
This is legit. Oops.
How do we know? Have we been to the SEC.gov? Does it say it there?
I saw it on Twitter, man. No. Oh, wait. I did see that on Twitter yesterday as well, but we all know what happened.
Latest news.
I see nothing.
Well, it's trading like there's something going on because it's all over the place. So
what's it doing?
But
it's 46.1 right now.
This is not a single ETF approval. It's a set of ETF approvals because the first link you showed, I think it said that 11 companies.
Yeah.
Like trustworthy account that I follow. Approved tickers, NYC ARCA listings, Grayscale, Bitwise, Hashdex, NASDAQ, iShares, Valkyrie, and then
where are you getting that though?
A host of others. I mean, it's not an official account, but the guy has never been wrong. So it's just this guy I follow, Chris Dunn. So, here it is. I got it.
All right, you can share now.
Ow. Temporarily unavailable.
See?
Okay.
See? I don't know if it's legit, man. Until we see it officially on the SEC website, there's nothing on CNBC.
Bitcoin Magazine Twitter says official SEC approved spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Where did you see this, Joe?
It's on X. The Bitcoin Magazine has tweeted.
Yeah, Bitcoin Magazine is not
it's not official. What?
They're not a hand of the SEC? No.
This article says that it was on the SEC website, but now it's gone.
Yeah, because it was up. Like it was an official link. Like yeah.
Uploaded to the SEC's website. Now the same link shows 404 error.
You cannot make it up. It's wonderful.
Dude, someone probably hacked the SEC website today. Oh, that's genius. So funny. I mean, it's amazing the SEC is causing investors and traders to lose money because they're falsifying news.
The incredible irony of that.
I am happy to confirm the Grayscale team has received necessary approvals to uplist GBTC to NYC ARCA. We'll share a press release shortly.
Still not believing it.
And now Jamie Dimon is so sad.
Yeah, but he's like, he has a stake in some of these.
I know.
Firms, so
guy's crazy.
It's all kind of one side of his mouth, and then
go. Yeah. He's
let's back up and tell everybody what you mean by that, Joe. So the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, roll-up chemical bank, who's fraudulent about his balance sheet and the solvency of the company in 2008, and should have been sent to prison for fraud. I've called him a crook on air when I was on Fox probably 150 times, and every time the producers would go, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "Let him sue me. I guarantee you it won't hold up in court." So at any rate, that guy has been bad-mouthing Bitcoin forever, saying the SEC should ban it, and it's a terrible, worthless asset. And now, if and when the SEC approves all of these Bitcoin ETFs, guess who's going to be one of the preferred partners to all of these companies that are releasing the ETFs? None other than JP Morgan Chase Chemical bank. Yeah.
Talk bad about it for as long as you can, so you can load up and get all your ducks in a row, and then benefit from it as much as possible after the fact.
Is that the Bill Ackman playbook for COVID crash? Oh, wait. No, we're talking about JP Morgan. Bill Ackman's won me over lately, for the record, with his personality on Twitter. I find interesting, but more importantly, someone I read who is a young kid, 25 years old, does a newsletter called The Short Report. Maybe he's 28, but he's in his 20s. It's like Bryce's age. And he tweeted the other day a framed picture of a letter that he had sent to. He said he sent a letter to 20 of the biggest investors in the country, and only one of them wrote back. And that one person was Bill Ackman. The guy, the letter had asked, do you have any advice for me trying to start a newsletter about shorting stocks? And Bill Ackman wrote back, read these 10 books and get started. The best way to learn is by doing. And I'm a fan of Bill Ackman now for the first time. Yeah. At any rate, are we all in agreement that the SEC has not officially approved the Bitcoin ETF again? For 2 days in a row, there's been a head fake at 2:00 in the afternoon at Mountain Time.
Yep, still getting a 404.
Yeah.
Actually, it changed. It was temporarily unavailable, and now it's just a flat out 404 error, page not found. So the drama continues.
Let's see. Yep, we got CNBC coming back from commercial, and they're doing an earnings alert on KB Home. Nothing on Bitcoin. It was another head fake. Shocking.
All right. Well, perhaps we will get verification or not during our time here.
Yeah. Anybody want to throw it out there? If and when the SEC actually approves a real Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin will be up or down the next day, and by how much? Bryce, you first.
I think Bitcoin will be down 5%.
Joe Anderson.
I don't know anymore, because the first two head fakes, one a month ago or so and one yesterday, it was a straight up green candle for a while. But on these, so far, it's down to sideways. I still think it's going to be up by a couple percent.
Okay. Sanatsi?
I'd say it'll be up probably 3 to 5%.
And Cabana?
We talking how long after the announcement?
The next day.
The next day. 24 hours after, I'll go down 3 to 5%.
I'm going to take the up 10 to 15% the next day, but within a week, it will be back below the price at which it was approved, and maybe down 5 to 10% below that price after about a week. But it sure looks like this initial reaction, there's a lot of euphoria, ready to party, and nobody's going to sell their Bitcoin that moment. And there will be people buying it. Maybe. We'll see.
And Cabana and I were discussing, it seems to be that once the ETFs get loaded up and people start transferring some money in there, it's not going to be a day trade. It's not going to be as much. I mean, it's still speculation, but do those people hold, and it starts to create a little bit less volatility? I mean, I think after a year or two, I think that probably happens, but over the first week or two, I think there's going to be a lot of people still pushing buttons and seeing what happens.
Let's drill down on that a little bit. So, the premise of this Bitcoin ETF being approved is that institutions like hedge funds or family offices or even a mutual fund can go and finally buy outright Bitcoin exposure, outright Bitcoins in the form of the ETF, which stands for Exchange Traded Fund, which is basically when you pool a bunch of people's money together on a publicly traded vehicle that owns that particular asset. The reason why the Bitcoin ETF has never been approved through now as much as anything. Probably the primary reason is the custodial problem of owning, of who holds the Bitcoin when you create the ETF. When we buy a stock, it's held at your Robinhood or your E-Trade or your Morgan Stanley account. The broker themselves typically just keep a digital proof that you own that stock. And it's good enough because over hundreds of years, we all believe that when our E-Trade account says XYZ is your balance and these are the stocks that you own and these are the number of shares of each stock that you own, it's true and it's there and it works. We've not had that with Bitcoin. You store a Bitcoin on a smartphone or a disk drive, and that's a chip. But anyway, you store it there, and for a personal account, that's fine. I've had my Bitcoin stored on a cold hard drive for most 5 years, maybe. The first few years I had it at places, one of which got hacked. As a hedge fund manager, I can't just tell my investors, yeah, I put some of your millions of dollars of money into Bitcoin and it's in a hard drive in my desk. Like, that's not how it's going to work. But it would be nice for me to be able to actually have outright Bitcoin exposure for my investors, knowing that it's Bitcoin. As I use now the BITO ETF, that is a Bitcoin futures ETF, which is a derivative of Bitcoin. It's not real Bitcoin, right? So I want the real Bitcoin. I personally will be a beneficiary as a hedge fund manager of being able to get my investors actual Bitcoin exposure. The theory that you're getting to, Joe, all this, as I'm not just trying to fill up space, but try to explain things to people who might not be privy to what we're discussing, that typically mutual hedge family offices and institutions are not day traders. They typically buy and hold. So this would enable institutions, which are long-term investors, to put capital into Bitcoin ETFs, which then means that those ETFs have to go out and buy real Bitcoin and custody it somewhere. But that is what we are hoping these people will, long-term investors will get exposures to Bitcoin through the ETF, and that should alleviate some of that volatility. You agree with that, is what you were saying there, Joe?
I think so. I mean, I think that's the theory. I mean, it's, yeah. A question that something you just stated, for those people who are holding their Bitcoin on, let's say, a Robinhood or a Coinbase or whatever, whether you've got a ton of it or a ton of it in respect to what you own, how important do you think it is to get it off of? I know there's been hacks in exchanges before that maybe weren't the best. How important do you think it is to get it off of an exchange into a cold wallet if you're going to hold it for 5 years?
I think if you're going to use the ETF, if the ETF gets approved, and if you're going to use the ETF, you don't need to worry about the hard wallet ever again. I believe that will be a legitimate long-term way of getting exposure to the ETF.
Right. But for those who have directly bought,
if you don't, man, you got to. I don't trust Coinbase. I don't trust Binance. I don't trust anybody to buy. But Coinbase about a year or two ago had to come out and explicitly tell their customers that, hey, you don't own your Bitcoin if it's custodied here. We will have creditors that might be in front of you and have access to your personal Bitcoin if you're holding it on a Coinbase wallet. And that's enough of a risk that I wouldn't want to take it. I think Coinbase could go bankrupt. They could get sued to oblivion by the SEC and rightfully so, because Coinbase has been breaking securities laws for 5 years and flaunting it and talking shit about it. The other door. So, yeah. In 4 minutes, we're going to have Bryce Dabbs, who writes a space newsletter come on the air and talk to us all about it and tell us about his newsletter, talk about the space industry a little bit. Dan Geraci, our esteemed, and I know he's truly our leader because he came in a year after we had already started, but he is our esteemed expert of space, all things space, is in an investor meeting right now himself. And so he is not going to be here today. Probably should talk about the biggest news in space this week, I think would probably be Starlink launched 6 test satellites for the T-Mobile satellite direct to cell phone technology, such that people like Bryce and I who live out in rural New Mexico and can't make a phone call when we drive 30 minutes in any direction because it drops once you leave this tiny town we live in. We'll have the ability initially to text from anywhere at any time, and within about 6 months to have voice phone calls anytime, anywhere, and probably within a year or so have some moderate data connectivity. It's not going to be quite 4G, much less 5G, but we'll be able to check a stock price from the bottom of one of Bryce's dad's ranches, which would be cool. And that is truly revolutionary. You know, it's already amazing that after people have tried to do satellite broadband constellations before, but if you don't own the launch vehicle like SpaceX does, it just gets to be too darn cumbersome. Bryce and I were working on Telesat yesterday, competitor to Starlink, and they are very excited because somewhere in the next year or two, they plan to get 160 low Earth orbit broadband satellites up. And it's going to cost them $3.5 billion. Well, them and the Canadian taxpayer, $3.5 billion. And Bryce and I put some pen to paper. And you guys want to know, how many satellites does Starlink have up in the sky right now? Anybody want to guess?
We said it a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, but I bet there's more since we said it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
About 4,000.
Close. Joe, you got a guess?
Nope.
Cabana?
3,500.
5,200.
Okay.
So they have 5,200 satellites already up, and we're pretty sure it cost them about $4 billion to do that, which means they have 20 times, 25, 35 times the number of satellites that their would-be competitor might one day have up for about the same price. Starlink's just operating in their own, SpaceX is just operating in their own world, as we've discussed many times.
Going back to last week, I think Dan maybe disputed a little bit like the, I guess, T-Mobile part of taking over that satellite phone kind of space. I know he's not here, but have you done any more work on that in the time since that makes you feel better or worse about T-Mobile like being one of the better plays for that?
Yeah, I after we had that call last week, I took Dan's thoughts serious, of course, as I always do, but went back and worked on it. I think he's wrong. I do think that Starlink will be exclusive with T-Mobile at least for a year or two, and that AT&T and Verizon's approach to trying to compete with this is going to be several years back. I'm sure Dan is right that they will be trying to do this, but nobody but Starlink can offer this that quickly. And if it's not, they don't get started on it now, they're not going to catch them. There are 2 companies that are trying to compete with Starlink on the idea of providing satellite to cell phone service directly. One is called Lynk, Lynk, and the other one is, Telesat also.
AST mode.
And AST Mobile. So I guess there's 3 would-be competitors. None of them have much going on. AST Mobile's got 1 test satellite that has worked. They're going to partner with AT&T, but they need money soon or they're going to run out. Maybe AT&T will bail them out. But it's a tough business. Space is hard. Communications networks are hard. SEC approves Bitcoin spot ETFs to list on New York Stock Exchange, ARCA, NASDAQ, and BZX exchanges. It is official on CNBC, although yesterday it was official on CNBC, and then they had to retract that shit. So it is possible it is not legit, but I'm going to go with probably CNBC would not make that mistake twice in 2 days. What's Bitcoin doing?
Nothing. Down 45.6.
Yeah.
I still don't see a press release. Not on the SEC website.
Yeah, nobody cares.
They've been duped twice, and everybody now everybody's just waiting.
Yeah. Speaking of nobody caring, how about the any significance or lack thereof of this Vulcan rocket with the moon lander that apparently they lost contact with earlier this week? I think it was.
Well, look, for once we can't blame Boeing.
Right.
The launch itself, the ULA, United Launch Alliance, which is a partnership between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, among others, pulled it off. Granted, it probably cost 20 times as much as a SpaceX Falcon 9 or even a Falcon Heavy would cost to launch, maybe 15 times what Falcon Heavy would cost to launch. And but it worked. They actually didn't blow up. They didn't have to shut it down after getting it turned on. It actually worked. Now, on the other hand, what the Astronomics is the name of the company that had a moon lander on there that they were hoping would get to the moon, and it had a fuel leak and couldn't get enough juice from the solar panels to get it corrected, and it is a complete loss. And as Bryce pointed out when it happened, you just hate, for the space economy, you want success for everyone. You want them all to work out. You want all of these things to succeed. In about 4 or 5 weeks, there will be another mission sending a lunar lander to the moon. This is from a company that's publicly traded called Intuitive Machines, LUNR. And hopefully it works. We need to get on the moon. The Japanese have gotten on the moon. 2 or 3 Russians, maybe the Chinese. Well, several people have been getting to the moon lately, not with people, but with equipment. And we need to do it ourselves. And NASA also came out this week and pushed back the timeline for getting human beings, astronauts, as it were, lunar nauts, to the moon. They were hoping to do it at the end of this year. Then they pushed it back to the middle of next year. And now they're saying first part of 2026. Space is hard. Space is hard. Looks like our boy is not showing up on time. He was supposed to be here at 2:30. Bryce Dabbs will be here next week. I promised him for this week. And then this morning he said he'll be 30 minutes late. So I was trying to buy his time before he got here. Didn't work.
Okay. Can I
Anything
just
else?
say a few things about something else? Can I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. So I know Cody, maybe others have been using Copilot, Microsoft's Copilot. I had not gotten around to actually downloading and start, playing with it. And so one nice thing about it is that it gives references in the responses that it generates based on your prompt. So that was something that, you know, a lot of people actually have been complaining about. So that was, I think it was nice to see that. And also you have the option of choosing GPT-4 or 3. It's optional, and 4 obviously is a little slower, but I think it looks good. And the other thing is that perhaps naive observation, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure all of you started noticing as well that perhaps what I should call special purpose GPTs, like time GPT is for time series analysis, specifically for time series analysis. GPT is for time series analysis, and there are other types of GPTs, and I think I'm speculating the main reason for this is that the data that each of these specialized GPTs use probably are cleaner or better overall. And so the implication of that is that you'll see less of these so-called hallucinations, if indeed that is the case. Because more and more every day, I'm seeing specialized GPTs.
Yeah.
So it's just right now early observation.
Thank you, Sanat.
To point out.
Cool. There's the whole AI revolution feels like it could just accelerate if the money is going to be spent, and the money looks like it's going to be spent on it. So, all right, guys, peace and love. I'll see you this time next week, same bat channel and same bat time. Thanks, Cabana, for hosting. Sanatzi, thanks as always for being here, and Mr. American Badass Joe Anderson. Appreciate your time and energy, bro.
And Reuters does have it on their site for what it's worth.
Well, Reuters would never make a mistake.
Fake news.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.